Phoenix Down Radio is on the air.
Welcome everybody to Phoenix Down Radio, episode number 200. Yeah, you heard right. This is the 200th official episode of Phoenix Down Radio. I am your host, Klauss and Seyrr, and joining me, my co-host, who's been here since the beginning, Seyrr Timono. Seyrr, hey, what's going on?
I apparently don't know when to stop. I also might be dead. I still have not been able to confirm that we didn't all die and we're in an unsubtle purgatory.
Oh, so you think this is hell?
Purgatory. There's an important difference, although certain factions of the church do not recognize. Anyways, short version is that the library that I work at is right by the site where a lot of schools hold their graduations, and we had about 7 high school graduations happening next door over the last week.
I don't know, that sounds like hell.
I'm happy for the kids. They've worked really hard. There were certainly a lot of air horns going off, and I'm pretty sure someone tried setting off fireworks right next to the library because we could all hear that boom.
At least it wasn't vuvuzelas.
I cannot 100% confirm there were not any vuvuzelas. The actual, at least, comfort is that all wrapped up last weekend. Going forward, summertime tends to be busy for libraries, but for my particular location, it's actually a bit calmer because so many of the people who come by are coming by after school. So we actually have time to get some of our side projects done.
What's time? I don't understand what this time is. I don't have any of that.
It's this herb that goes really, really nicely on roast chicken.
With parsley, sage, and rosemary?
See, I had a great pun a while back when I was playing Satisfactory with my friends, pretty much wholesale stolen from XKCD, about how we should be using biofuel to run our transportation system so that we can make the trains run on time. Yeah, they briefly discussed kicking me out of the game after that one.
I mean, can you blame them?
No, not in the least.
No.
Oh. This is why I have a little bit of a soft spot for your puns, Nick Nar.
That's not does not give you carte blanche to keep throwing them in the chat, though. We do have the ability to time you out, even though you can probably untime out yourself. But for those, like I said, for those who are regulars to the show, apologies for the additional delay on this episode. We had a lot of stuff going on 2 weeks ago, and it just wasn't going to work out to throw the podcast in there on top of having company, so we decided to hold off. And I think we put a little more time into things, and hopefully everything works well. You know, time, not the seasoning, but the thing that nobody has enough of. But no, it's been quite the interesting few weeks for me, at least. A month ago, we went to see a New World Final Fantasy for the, I don't know, umpteenth time that I've seen them in St. Paul. And they had some really, really good songs. They played some stuff from the new album that they dropped. Lots and lots. They actually gave 14 a lot of love. We got to hear Sands of Amber, which is one of the new ones. We also heard Insatiable. I mean, it was a really good time. Nick Nar was there, and I think he really enjoyed it as well. I think you've basically been there with every one that I've gone to, I think, haven't you, Nick Nar? Except for maybe the first. Were you there with when Luna and I went? Or not? I can't remember. It's been so long. But last weekend, we went to Thunder Bay.
Ooh.
So I left the country for a couple of days, which is nice because I didn't actually need my passport to do that.
That surprises me. I thought they did at this point, or did they change the policy again?
I have an enhanced driver's license.
Got it.
Which allows me to cross the land borders. You know, I can drive across or take a ferry across. I cannot fly into Canada or Mexico, but I can drive there.
Yeah.
So
There's a especially for stuff like that. Like, there's some stuff just for the people who work right across the border, things like that. It really streamlines the whole process.
Exactly. Makes that, it was nice. And crossing the border was actually, pretty easy to do. I think it took longer to cross into Canada, but I think that was just mainly because there was a lot more cars going in than there were leaving on Monday, on Memorial Day. So
what I'm hearing is you're about to start an illicit Timbit smuggling business.
Why? We have Tim Hortons here in Minnesota.
Huh.
So
I am really not up on these things.
No, apparently not. But no, it was really cool because we actually got to see. We went to an amethyst mine.
Ooh.
There were literally amethysts on the ground, just everywhere.
Yeah.
And it was
it's
really
always
neat.
weird to hear that type of thing because, like, you think, okay, it's like gem, it must be super valuable. Back in undergraduate, my chemistry professor brought in a batch of like uncut mined rubies because we were looking at something like crystal structure of various chemical things, and so she brought some of those to like kind of talk a little bit about the structure in them. And it's like, this just kind of looks like a rock, like a reddish rock.
Yeah, which that's what a ruby is. It's just a red rock, but it's clear ish sometimes.
These were like completely unpolished and uncut.
Yep. But I mean, well, like I said, on the interior, sometimes you might find a large enough one that doesn't have any inclusions or any type of imperfections in there. Then you can go through and put all the facets on it. It's the cutting that makes it a gem valuable.
Right. These ones, as I said, they were like stuff that had been, I think at this point they were family heirlooms and worth more to her for the like, hey, this is a story tells about my family than like actually having them cut and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. And it's more fun and it's less to have to worry about, if you were to something were to happen to them. So,
I mean, if you were going to do that, I imagine if you were going to go to the process of that, I imagine it's because you're planning to sell them.
Yeah, probably. Or put them in jewelry.
Yeah, I was going to say jewelry. Anyways, man, I haven't thought about her in years. Oh, well.
Any other fun things that you've been up to?
Oh.
I mean, it has been 6 weeks since the last show.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was pretty much just library stuff, preparation for various things, various game-related things that aren't necessarily going to be as interesting. I started trying a bit of Aloe Island Savage.
Okay.
I can clear the trash. That is an accomplishment. Okay. The trash is absurd in the Criterion Savages.
I signed into the game this morning.
Job well done.
I wanted to make sure I hadn't lost my houses.
And I've mostly, I'm about 4 tools done with the actual final finished Splendorous whatnots.
Okay.
And another couple that are on the way, which, yeah, how long are the new segments? Can I get in a little bit of crafting? I should probably not attempt that.
No, probably not. But one thing I should attempt eventually is probably to finish the last the story raid fight, so I can be ready to go for Dawn Trail, huh?
God, yes.
I just haven't felt like playing the game all that much. And like I said, then I've been playing. I did do the Final Fantasy XVI DLC. Got through both the one with why my brain is farting right now, Omega, and then Leviathan. So, but that was pretty cool. Other than that, we were. Let's see. I'm trying to think right now. Oh yeah, the other thing that is going on here. We just learned about this yesterday. My dog was accepted to run in the corgi races at the local horse track later this summer. So
that's a thing?
Yeah, corgi races are a thing. They actually do different breeds of dog racing. Non-standard, not like greyhound races. That you would bet on. But these are just more for fun. They'd have corgis, basset hounds.
Where it's like, look at that little guy waddling down the track.
And let's see, they did.
That is the vibe of these things, is my understanding.
Yeah. Dachshund races, and I think what was the other one? They're doing 4 breeds this year. But yeah, so we're gonna be able to see if we can get see if our dog is a championship dog. Yeah, and
adorable.
yes, I did forget to change the title in there. We are on 200 today, not 199. But
yeah,
I'm less concerned about that little bit in Twitch than I am about, you know, just making sure that the podcast stuff is correct. So, well, let's keep, I know we could keep talking about everything we've been doing over the last, you know, 6 weeks since the last episode, but then we would be here till episode 201, and nobody wants that, right? So let's go ahead and continue on, and thank our Patreon producers, Nicknar, Aurori, and Mika. We really do appreciate your guys' support and helping to keep the show going. So let's jump into some of that gaming community news, and a lot of it is not great. Starting with, well, this one isn't terrible, but Square Enix is in the middle of a lot of different process changes, including they're changing the name of Creative Business Unit 3 and Yoshi P's job title. This article comes from Silicon Era and was written by Daniel Bueno. Copy and paste this for y'all so you can see it. So Square Enix made changes to the name of Creative Business Unit 3, as well as a job title for 14 director Naoki Yoshida. The developer's title has changed from General Manager of Creative Business Unit 3 to the Studio Head of Creative Studio 3. The new studio name and job title for Yoshida appear to be as a part of the new 2025 recruitment website for Square Enix. Specifically, both name changes can be found on the executive interview page for Yoshi P. You can see the changes to the studio name and job title appear on the upper banner featuring the developer's headshot. However, this company still lists Creative Business Unit 3 and all its other divisions with the old nomenclature. While this is only Square Enix site that lists the new title of the studio and developer, it's likely that all other Square Enix development divisions will undergo the same title changes moving forward. And I guess that makes sense, you know, to kind of, you know, bring it all more, to have the naming make a little bit more sense in a gaming industry like that. Versus, you know, Business Unit 3 doesn't seem like it's something that we would be, you know, game designers.
Yeah, I was seeing some stuff that's talking about it. They're undergoing a lot of restructuring, including layoffs, as they aggressively is the term that was used, prepare for a multi-platform push.
And we're going to be talking about that coming up.
Oh, that is further down.
Yes.
But yes, a couple other things noted that they are still keeping that Phoenix logo, a lot of the other branding. So I guess part of it was more of a, hey, it feels like a, hey, this had bothered us for a long time, and hey, as long as we're making these changes, here's a good opportunity to have this one, because business unit does sound really sterile and generic.
Yeah.
The studio aspect, I think, really does sound a lot more appealing, a bit more highlighting what they're actually doing there.
Yep. All right, let's continue on. The next one we'll talk about here, the SE president is bemoaning the weak Final Fantasy sales. This article comes from PCGamer.com and was written by Rich Stanton. The relatively new Square Enix president, Takashi Kiryu, has been making some big decisions in reviewing the company's development process from scratch. The reasoning behind such moves is now becoming clearer thanks to SE's financial results, which the company warning investors earlier this month they could expect to see heavy losses, alongside of it announcing the cancellation of various projects with sunk development costs around $140 million and layoffs across the US and Europe. Square Enix says it expects operating income of 40 billion yen in this financial year against an expectation of 57 billion. Its sales and a dividend outlook were also down. Since the announcement of these results and the ongoing restructuring, Square Enix's shares have suffered badly with a loss of 16%, their biggest decline in 13 years. And bear in mind, the Japanese stock market has a daily limit on how far stock can fall. So, I mean, basically...
Yeah, so it's entirely possible that we'd see further changes over time.
Yep. Kiryu told shareholders and analysts that the company had failed to meet its expectations because of low sales of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Final Fantasy XVI, and Foam Stars. Notably, these games are all PS5 exclusives. The last estimate Square Enix gave for Final Fantasy XVI placed it at 3 million sales, with no further update beyond Kiryu saying initial sales were good before tailing off. So yeah, games aren't selling quite as well as they'd like, mainly because they're stuck on one platform.
Yeah. Like, we've long seen the platform exclusivity as something that the console creators really want to push to add value to their consoles, but it really does. Like, we're seeing the flip side of that, where if the game makers are forced to put all their eggs in one basket.
Yeah, but no, even the console makers, Sony and Microsoft, are seeing that console exclusivity is not the way forward, and they're actually looking at making a lot of their first party games to be multi-platform as well. I've been hearing announcements that PlayStation is going to have a lot of its the online games, the live service games, are going to be PS5 and PC on release day and date.
Like, I get why the idea seems attractive. The whole like if they're buying this and they're going to be buying our consoles in order to get, like, it has a certain attractiveness in terms of the idea, even if it doesn't actually turn out to work out the way that they thought. I can see how you could convince yourself that this is a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the thing of console exclusivity and ecosystems like that it's a very old concept in video games. Because everyone was thinking the battle between Nintendo and Sega, and then when
wouldn't be the.
Yeah, it's not the first time this has happened, and it's not going to be the last time that we're looking at companies expanding beyond their own platform.
I was also going to say, wouldn't it be the first time that the C-suite at a company got so caught up in old beliefs that they are unable to recognize the changes in the market?
Yeah, I think the only company that's kind of immune to some of these things somewhat is Nintendo, just because they've really built their ecosystem around specific types of games and being more family friendly, so to speak. And I think that's kept them safe from this type of thing, whereas
they have their own blinders about particular topics, but it does seem like they've managed to at least avoid this particular pitfall.
But I mean, I have heard them say that they do not want to see Mario on other platforms.
They are very protective of their brands.
Yep, very. But with all these sales issues, next article talks about Square Enix's aggressive shift in their multi-platform strategy, and this is coming from Wesley LeBlanc at GameInformer.com. So let me copy paste this. Oops, how about? There we go. Mouse is just not being nice to me today. All right, so Square Enix is rebooting itself, aggressively pursuing a multi-platform strategy that includes PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, and PC in the process. This comes from the company's latest financial earnings report, which details Square Enix's 3-year reboot plan for long-term growth. Within that 3-year plan, Square Enix lists 4 pillars. 1, enhance productivity by optimizing the development footprint in the digital entertainment segment. 2, diversify earnings opportunities by strengthening customer contact points. 3, roll out initiatives to create additional foundational stability. And 4, strike a balance between shareholder return and growth investment when allocating capital. I know it's a lot of business speak and jargon, but basically they're wanting to expand where their games are played.
Yeah, this does make me wonder, because I know some of the projects that they we mentioned earlier, like there were some projects that they had killed, and I wonder if those were ones that, even with however far along they weren't ones that lent themselves well to being put out on multiple platforms for technical reasons or other issues like that.
Something like that, or it was maybe a type of game that at the time of its initial development was very strong in the market, but that since major changes have gone through with COVID and things like that, the way players are playing games has changed significantly, and the types of games that they're playing vary so often that it just may not be financially responsible to continue to run that project.
At least at their best guess. I've definitely seen some amount of angst from people who were looking forward to some of those games.
Oh yeah, I mean, they didn't really mention which games were canceled yet, but because some of them were unannounced projects.
Yeah.
But in terms of numbers, while Square Enix's net sales are up 3.8% year over year, their operating income is down nearly 27%. I mean, so they took a huge loss by allocating all of their expenses for Final Fantasy XVI into this last fiscal year, and that's, I think, where a lot of those major losses came in. And they were expecting a lot higher sales of the game that just did not pan out.
As a side note, that operating income is the amount that they have left after deducting stuff like wages, depreciation on assets.
Yep.
So even though they're having lots of revenue, it's apparent just not making up for the amount that they had to spend to actually get that stuff out there. So I could see wanting to aggressively cut costs if those costs are really cutting into their ability to actually make a profit.
Yep. And then, as we mentioned in a previous story, Square Enix has canceled a number of in-development games to be more selective and focused, which lines up with this new philosophy that they expelled out. This likely means we'll be seeing more titles like Dragon Age 11, Final Fantasy XVI, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on various platforms, and less games like Foam Stars and the Diofield Chronicle. Only time will tell, though, and Square Enix thinks that it will take 3 years for this company reboot. Which, I mean, all of the other video game companies out there have been having similar issues like this, and we've been hearing over the last 2 years of just a staggering number of layoffs and cancellation of games, closure of studios, acquisitions, other organizations folding in, within another studio, things like that. It's really been rough. All of these companies thought that the growth that they saw during the pandemic was something that was sustainable, which we all knew it wasn't. But I don't know. I guess hindsight's 2020, and now they're kind of paying a little bit for that.
Just let me stay home all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
let us stay home. Yeah, it'll be great.
Yeah, and we can play all the games you want, and we'll buy more games. It'll be great, right? But no, we have to go back to the office. Yay. Another article, continuing on with this whole thing, Square Enix confirming the layoffs are part of the restructuring plan. This comes from VideoGamesChronicle.com and was written by Andy Robinson. Let me copy paste this for y'all. There we go. According to people who were in attendance, Square Enix president Takashi Kiryu said that both the company's American and European arms would be hit with layoffs, which will happen over the course of the next month. The scale of the layoffs weren't shared, but staff were told that people working in publishing, IT, and Square Enix's collective indie games division will be predominantly affected. Those impacted will be informed of that during when this was announced. Staff were told in the UK, employees will enter into a 1-month consultancy period as per local employment law, while US-based staff could leave their roles before June. Following the internal meetings on that last Monday, many of Square Enix's main Slack channels were locked, VGC was told. The layoff coincided with the publication of the company's quarterly financial results, in which Square Enix said it planned to rebuild overseas divisions from the ground up and has begun optimizing costs at its European and American offices via structural reforms. Kind of interesting that none of the Japanese offices appear to be affected.
Don't even want to touch that one, honestly.
I probably we should have seen some of this coming with them, selling off Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix Montreal to Embracer Group last year. And in that restructuring, the fact they're just trying to clean house a little bit, it looks like.
Yeah.
And it is entirely possible that Japanese law makes it more difficult for that. But I have heard other Japanese studios from that are owned by the other companies have had impacted. They have had job losses. Like what's the studio that came up with Hi-Fi Rush? I believe that was a Japanese studio. They were actually they're closed down or closing down.
Tango Gameworks.
That exactly. They were impacted. So Xbox kind of closed the shop there. It's not in Yes, granted that is different from a layoff, a closure, but I mean it's still affecting everybody, which really sucks. But what else can you do? You don't like talking about it. I mean, we went so long without hearing about Square Enix layoffs, and then now, all last month, it was all throughout the news.
I mean, I know no company lasts forever, but also I don't love thinking about that.
Yeah. Well, I just hope that whatever direction that they take and what moves they have to make for that, it does end up making the company stronger and they're able to continue producing high quality products. I mean, everybody's talking about how good, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Final Fantasy XVI, how good these games are and how, well produced they are. They're fabulous, but the cost associated with such high quality development, if you're not selling games, you're not going to recover that, and it's going to be more difficult to make games like that. And we still have one more Final Fantasy VII remake game in the works that we're waiting for. So hopefully it allows us to A, get that game, and then B, figure out how Square Enix can continue to improve and strengthen itself in this changing video games market. But let's talk about some.
I don't think I have anything useful to add to that.
Okay, that's fair. So let's go ahead and talk about a little bit of happier news. The Final Fantasy VII Remake team wants to give players more freedom and new gameplay in the series finale. This article comes from automationmedia.com. It was written by Ayuo Kawase. Sorry if I slaughtered that name. Updated on May 30th, the latest episode of Inside Square Enix delves into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, with key members of the development team reflecting on what they paid attention to when developing the game, as well as enthusiastically talking about the upcoming final part of Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy. At the end of the hour-and-a-half long episode, each member hinted at what we can expect from the final installment. First, battle director Teruki Endo spoke about how the whole team focused on expanding battles and the wider gameplay cycle for Rebirth. For the third game, he says he is currently thinking about how to, quote, give the player even more freedom, end quote. Art director Shintaro Takai comments that he's already working on the third game in his head. He references all the little playful touches in both Remake and Rebirth, such as Red 13's Shinra uniform disguise and dance during the cruise boat section. Oh my god, that was hilarious. That Final Fantasy VII's expansive universe and lore make possible. However, Takai explains that the design team is not 100% satisfied and plans to put everything into making the final part of Final Fantasy VII Remake even more detailed. Well, I hope they are able to really do that, because I've really enjoyed the time I've put into both Remake and Rebirth. They're fabulous games.
Yeah. I mean, like we've talked about before, but definitely this is just another thing where we get to see how much it is all labor of love for them. In addition to wanting to make like a big successful game, that you have people who had grew up with this was a part of their kind of like their formative experiences, wanting to share those aspects, taking those things that we had all the jokes, all the comments about, highlighting them, tweaking them. It's just really lovely to see. In general, it's really lovely to see a lot of these properties in the hands of people who love and care about them so much.
Yep. As long as they're given that opportunity to really show that love, I think we're going to end up with a strong product. And the last little bit of news that I want to talk about today before we get into our discussion topic, a leaker reports Final Fantasy IX Remake is currently in development. This comes from GameRant.com and was written by Lance Gose, or Gose, one of the two. Trusted industry insiders supported rumors claiming a Final Fantasy IX Remake is in development at Square Enix. Talks regarding a possible modern reimagining of Final Fantasy IX have been circulating among the community for some time now, with various sources alluding to the project in the past few months. While developers have yet to deny or confirm any of the hearsay surrounding the speculated modern reimagining, Another leaker has come forward to support the reports and claimed the remake is only one of the many projects in Square Enix's production pipeline. Since its release in 2000, Final Fantasy IX has remained one of the most beloved entries in the franchise, retaining a sizable following even over 2 decades after its initial launch on the original PlayStation. It is widely regarded as a classic of the generation, and its many fans have hoped Square Enix's recent interest in the modernization of its most acclaimed titles, such as the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, might eventually lead to the release of a faithful remake of Final Fantasy IX. Square Enix producer Naoki Yoshida also fueled speculation with an impending announcement of a modern reimagining when he implied that there was a reason Final Fantasy XIV's upcoming Dawn Trail expansion heavily referenced Final Fantasy IX. Though Square Enix has yet to officially announce a Final Fantasy IX remake, notable leaker Midori's sources claimed the project was already in the works. When asked whether Square Enix had any notable remakes in the production pipeline, Midori specifically claimed an upcoming modern reimagining for Final Fantasy IX was in the works, though they did not clarify whether the remake was only in pre-production or full development was already underway.
I do have a friend who is playing through Final Fantasy IX right now and definitely seems to be enchanted by a lot of stuff. So it's kind of interesting that some of the stuff still seems to hold up. Mm-hmm. I will say this is not, like you mentioned and alluded to it, this is not the first time that we've heard leaks and rumors about Final Fantasy IX. The only thing that's super notable about this one, which is actually reasonably notable, is that it's a separate source that seems to be confirming in its corroborating. That's the term, not confirming, corroborating.
Yep. So, I mean, this is still all speculation. Like I said, there has been no confirmation nor denial of said remake. But I mean, since like that NVIDIA leak a couple of years ago when Final Fantasy IX was listed on there, and then some of the speculation that's been going through.
Yeah, it is interesting that like that leak encompassed a lot of different things, but the Final Fantasy IX one is the only one that's really persisted this long. Mm-hmm. Which I don't know if that indicates that like, hey, this is the one that's more credible because there continues to be support for it, or if it's that people just really, really want it to be a thing. Like, I don't know what to actually make of it, but it is interesting that of all the stuff in that leak, that this, so far as I can tell, is the only one that's really persisted.
Yeah, I know for me, Final Fantasy IX is probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite Final Fantasy game, just because of when it came out. You know, it came out right after, 7 and 8, which were both kind of modern Final Fantasies, kind of, with a lot of modern technologies and things like that. 9 brought it back to, its roots with the crystals and knights and, just more medieval style. And I really, really enjoyed that. And I thought it was like the perfect time to bring that back in. So I really do have, strong emotional attachment to the game. But yeah. I think they could really do a good job. There have been a lot of other new games out there that are focusing on more medieval style, worlds and things like that. And I think that the team could have a lot of fun with it.
The other thing I would say is, because 9 still happened at a point, there was some stuff about the localization that was a little bit odd or difficult to get across. I do feel like it was really like, say, with 10 that we got a lot of the more modern ones that were easier for audiences to follow, because in supplemental stuff like in Opera, the City of Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, in a lot of those other games where they often like look at, review, retell the story of, a lot of those elements that were unclear came through much more easily. And so I think like if they were to do it at this point, they've got a better handle on localization stuff, such that I think they could make a lot of those unclear elements really come through and resonate, because there's some really good themes about confronting one's own mortality in there.
That's true.
I mean, that quite frankly, it is entirely possible that teenage me just did not have enough life experience to comprehend why this would be a thing.
What? That seems implausible. I thought you understood everything from the day you were born.
Yeah, it turns out there's some stuff that makes a bit more sense once you thought you were going to die in a car wreck at some point.
I guess.
Or once you've been going through one of those many long nights of the soul. Anyways, yeah, I don't know if some of it is just like the audience, because again, that's also always been the assumption, like, oh, this is targeted at younger people and especially at younger men, when oftentimes, like, a lot of the stories being told are ones that are, a lot of those things are ones that are going to resonate with older audiences as well. So a remake at this point, I feel like might be able to capitalize on that. I don't know how that would do necessarily in terms of sales, but just in terms of like artistic merit, I feel like would have a lot going for it.
Yeah, I hope that with these types of projects that seem to be like labors of love, where the team really enjoys working on it and they want to put their best into it because they really have a kind of it holds a special place in their heart. I'm hoping that those types of things can really succeed well, and that the player base can really appreciate the time and attention to detail that they put into it, because that's what they've been doing with Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy. It's just, I think there was a few things that just kind of worked against it a little bit to get the sales numbers that they were maybe looking for. Though I really don't think that 3 and 4 million units sold is anything to sneeze at, but when you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars in development costs, it takes a few more copies than that to recoup that type of expenditure.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of that one Simpsons episode where Lisa ended up creating a competitor to the Malibu Stacy doll, and she's like, if that one doll can reach that one little girl, maybe it'll all be worth it. And the woman standing behind her, the financier of the project, says, especially if that little girl pays $10 million for that doll. It's like, I get the sentiment, but also...
Yeah. It's tough when you've got people who really are passionate about things and really want to put out high quality stuff, but when you look at the economies of scale and what it would take to really become successful at that and how much actually has to be sold, well, then that's a whole different story. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it spend money.
Horse money. Multiple failures happened before this point.
You know where I was going with it.
I do.
All right. So yeah, that's there's a lot more stuff that we could talk about. I could easily have another hour and a half worth of news. We could talk about the live letter. We could talk about just a whole number of things, but I think we'll save that information for another episode.
At the very least, I don't want to talk about the job actions until we've got actual stuff and not just the video.
Yeah.
I still have bets going about which move is going to be the sleeper hit that didn't look like it from the job actions.
I mean, it is kind of it's kind of weird to think that we're only a month away from Dawn Trail.
God, that's so... When did it become June? What the hell?
Today.
Also, happy Pride, listeners.
Yes, happy Pride. I am wearing my Pride shirt from Mythical today, so I like my nice rainbow tie-dye.
It's also very comfy. My Pride self?
Yeah, you should be.
I mean, I mostly wear like t-shirts and shorts, and they're like monocolor t-shirts.
Sometimes it's nice to have bright colors. Every once in a while.
I'm not that kind of gay.
That's okay.
I know. Ooh, the Fish Pride event. Right. God, the Fish Court has become such a force of nature in and of themselves. That is just like one of those developments I never expected. Though I have been told that the Venn diagram of Bleeding Edge, Endgame Raiders, and Big Fishers is practically a circle.
You mean a stack of pancakes?
Ooh, stack of fish cakes. I don't know if that's like fish-shaped pancakes or if it's actual fish cakes like the kind you get in ramen sometimes.
Like the round Naruto ones?
Yes.
No, it's not an Ouroboros.
Ooh.
That'd be
I want ramen.
As long as you don't want an Ouroboros, so we're fine.
Maybe I want Ouroboros ramen. Did you ever think about that? No, because it's stupid.
No, yeah, because that ramen's going to eat itself.
But I want to eat it.
Then you don't want Ouroboros ramen.
Oh. Okay,
right.
Enough of my nonsense.
We get enough of that as it is. So I think some people could always want more. Yeah, and we call those people I don't know what we call them, but it's something. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. I had been trying to figure out what we were going to do for our 200th episode. Were we going to, talk about, some of the formative things that happened within the podcast? Were we going to talk about some of the memories? Were we going to talk about, what goes into making the show? And now that I'm thinking about it, we're not very good at celebrating ourselves. You know what I mean?
I did nothing for my birthday this year.
Yeah. Well, if it weren't for my girlfriend, I probably wouldn't have done anything for mine either. But, So rather than celebrating ourselves on our 200th episode, I figured let's just continue to celebrate this amazing game series, Final Fantasy, and let's continue on with the Final Fantasy XVI original soundtrack. I believe we're on disc 3 now.
We are.
So let's go ahead and jump right into that with our first track of disc 3, Whitewater, King's Fall. And this plays at King's Fall and is an arrangement of brothers. Very light and pastoral start. A lot of flutes.
Yeah. We've had these types of instruments, especially like the high-pitched flute, used in other things to have kind of that mystical, magical feel.
Ethereal.
I think of like Final Fantasy VI with the Phantom Forest music, for instance.
Yep.
Especially with that backing harp.
But then it changes a little bit. Well, but it builds a little bit of tension, but then it kind of just rolls back into it again. It is just crazy how much music can tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have, when you're playing through a game for the first time and you really don't notice the music. I mean, you notice when it's not there, but when good music is built into a scene and it just is a part of it, that they did something good.
It's definitely something that I notice more consciously on a second playthrough.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Like when I'm going through, in 14, if I'm going through a dungeon for, the umpteenth time, then I'm probably listening more to the music a little bit. And then as I'm going through different parts of, like boss battles and things like that, I'm listening to how the music is interacting with certain phases of the fight. But, when you're just going through a story and you're absorbing the dialogue, you're absorbing the, what's happening on screen, and you hear this in the background, and it's just, adding that perfect amount of this ambiance to it and weight. It really, but you're not focused on it, but it's there. It's just weird how good music really affects things.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like we're kind of repeating back into the earlier stuff now. Because for the life of me, I can't tell you exactly what's happening at this moment, but because I think the game is just a little bit too fresh in my mind. Because it's been out for just about a year now, and it's been a little less than a year since I played, so hasn't had time to maybe set in the long-term memory yet.
Definitely, there's some stuff where, like, again, if it's your first playthrough and it's super fresh. This actually came up. It was the other game it was the Honkai Star Rail MSQ, where a lot of my friends blazed through it as fast as possible, and I would do play like an hour, 2 hours of it, take a little break, process what I'd just seen, and then I remember way more details and could keep the plot together.
Yeah,
so some of it is just like having the time for your brain to process it, make sense of what just happened.
There were a few times when as I was going through 16 that I was actually like spending 6, 8, 7, 8 hours at a time playing it because I didn't have a number of days available to do that, so I had to kind of binge what I could and absorb it as best as I could at that point. I think maybe what was going on here may have been a part of that, but I mean, it's still beautiful, and I remember the gist of the story.
But yeah, that is definitely, like, that is one of the reasons that I do tend to take a bit longer on these things, is because I usually am taking a bit more time, taking some time to consider, okay, what just happened? How does that fit into this? I'm thinking about, like, people have often asked why I remember all these details, and it probably is because I'm taking time to process some before I dump more in.
Yep, that definitely helps, because otherwise if you put 6, 7 hours of gameplay in, you're gonna forget some of that in the middle to the end.
Though it is, as you pointed out, something where it really is a luxury of time to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. And if you get the opportunity to play through it a second time, then you start to notice some of the details, because you're remembering what already happened here. So you're taking in some of the other details behind the scenes, like the music, like the things that are happening on the screen. The little touches.
The particular plot revelation that they make, it isn't quite as shocking to you, so you have time to actually pay attention to what's going on at the same time.
Yep, it's the same thing with movies too, because the first time you watch a movie, you're focused in on that main story, so you miss some of the subtle nuance that's happening on the sides of the screen, and instead of what's right in front of you.
Or sometimes you see it, but you don't recognize that it's relevant to anything. And so there's a lot of interesting stuff about how your memory works, where if you observe something, but you don't consider it relevant, it just won't get recorded.
All right, let's jump into the second track. This is called Dying Sun. And if you listen, it's an arrangement of Prelude, but it's very dark. It's in the scene where Clive sees Gav being attacked by Imperial soldiers. It's very short.
It is. It was super quiet. Didn't really have. Like shifted down an octave or two.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like the full arpeggio. It was just like.
Didn't have time to develop into the full thing.
Yeah, because it was a very frenetic scene, I think, too. Because Clive wanted to make sure that Gav wasn't killed by these soldiers.
Right.
I'm trying to think, is this the part where he loses his eye, maybe?
Let's see. I think it might.
Possibly. While you look up that, let's go into the third track, On the Shoulders of Giants, which is the standard boss theme. So when you would get into a larger fight, this is the theme that you would hear.
Tough monsters that aren't like dramatic story shaking whatnots.
But more, with just more weight than a standard battle theme would have. And it does a great job of really emphasizing that this is a bigger battle for you to fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of this in the DLC too. They pack a lot into those 2 DLC pieces. I haven't really jumped too much into the Kairos Gate, because I think that's like the you have to get all the way through the Rising Tide, and then you unlock it. So I haven't really delved too much into that. I do want to eventually go through the game more and actually, get up to the new level cap of 60 and see how that affects the end game play. But I will say some of the new weapons and armor are kind of nice. And they look really cool too.
Like, that is why we do things. Cool armor and weapons.
Exactly. You need the swag loot, man. we don't even need to play all 5 minutes of this because it's basically the same theme. You hear it when you're fighting a larger enemy, and it just makes you kind of hunker down a little bit and focus. Yeah. It's not just a basic hack kill.
Yeah, like lots of horns.
Very heavy, very fun though. Our next theme is A Long Way Down. Another arrangement of brothers. This plays in the scene where Clive is saving Gav from falling. So at this point, he's trying to make sure that he doesn't lose his friend. Is this at the point when Clive has become Sid yet, or no? No, he is not. This is still all early on in the hideout, I guess.
Yeah.
I forget there's 8 discs to this.
Yeah, we're not even halfway through in terms of soundtrack.
No.
One thing I did note is that a lot of these are arrangements of other ones, which we've talked a bit about leitmotifs, and oftentimes, especially in previous centuries, we've seen something where they're effectively using the melody wholesale or just like even just plain snatches of it. And there's a lot more of taking it and doing different arrangements of it, stuff that has the elements, which feels like a little bit more of a sophisticated way to go about it.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into our next bit. This is called Out of Time. It's a short little bit, an arrangement of Away that plays in the scene where Joshua heads for the Phoenix Gate. Very short.
Yeah.
Our next theme is called Aligned. And this is more of a somber piece because it's playing when Jill is telling Clive about her past. In this, as it involves Jill, is an arrangement of My Star, which is her leitmotif. This is where she's telling him, how, that she was from the north, and gosh, I'm trying to remember that whole scene. There was a lot going on.
Yeah.
How she ended up kind of coming into the protection, shall we say, of Clive's family, in a way to kind of keep them from attacking everybody, I think, is kind of how this one ended up working out. So
it's your classic nobility hostage situation. But like they would say, like, oh, you're being entertained at the emperor's court, and it's so that your family doesn't go attacking the emperor, kind of thing. Like, but yeah, especially for the audience of these games, a lot of people, especially modern eras, may not have been aware of that as a practice.
Yeah.
So having it spelled out explicitly,
which, I mean, I don't. The good thing about it is, she was well treated. She was treated as family.
Yeah, that was absolutely typical for these types of arrangements.
Yep.
It was almost never something that was like acrimonious.
Well,
but
sometimes it was, but in this case, it ended up being more of a beneficial type of thing for both parties, I think.
Yeah.
Well, especially for Jill. I think it ended up working out very well.
Definitely.
Next one is called Forevermore, Grand Duchy of Rosaria. This is the field theme of the Imperial Province of Rosaria, which in itself is an arrangement of On the Wind Born.
And going all the way back to the first disc with that one.
Yep. Well, I mean, the first disc is, where we had a lot of that, after that initial scene, we had a lot of, background on Clive and Joshua and their father.
It's also interesting to me. I think a lot of people would assume this is the field, this is where we are, so we should be like going around it all the time. And no, essentially, again, for a lot of times, you spend most of your time in the city, in the thing. Like the idea of going around, wandering around, that's something for like vagrants and adventurers, which is pretty much the same thing as a vagrant.
Except a vagrant with a sword.
Yeah, the idea that like hey, here's this field theme, but like a lot of people wouldn't really be going out into the field that much. You stay in the cities where it's or the not cities, anyways.
Well, you're either going to be like within the walls of the castle, or you're going to be staying within a town.
You're under your lord's protection because that's the entire damn point.
Because if you head out, in at least a lot of these games, there's a lot of wildlife out there that wants to kill you, for one. There are, bandits and other vagrants with swords, for two.
Bandits is the traditional thing to be concerned about.
And they're actually, I like that they actually did have bandits, out in the world as well. It wasn't just, you weren't just fighting, like spiders and giant frogs and wolves.
Yeah, no.
Though there are a lot of those too. It's when you start getting into the areas that have the giants that you need to start worrying about, I think, but which fortunately that's not till a little bit later. Or when you get into those ruins. It's a very pretty song. I mean, it just goes to show that that Rosaria was really a peaceful place. It was intended to be a safe haven for all who lived there and were under the protection of the duchy. And I really think that as far as the game goes, that it was they're the good guys. They're trying to be portrayed as the in a very positive light.
It's often difficult to have especially scenes where there's not necessarily clear, okay, these are definitely good, these are bad. There's like shit. But in as much as there is a good guy, yeah, definitely them. This is the place that's like kind of the bit it has the most like kind of traditional fantasy idealistic, this is the lovely kingdom feel to it.
Yep. All right, let's jump into the Founder's Footsteps. This is the theme of Martha's Rest. And it is a nice place to rest. Martha does her damnedest to make sure that anybody within the area of her inn is safe and taken care of. And she don't take no shit. But, it's a nice, relaxing little theme here.
Yeah. It's little safe havens along the road.
Yep. Place to be able to get a mead and a meal and not worry about the highwaymen. Or those darn vagrants with swords.
You and these vagrants.
Hey, you're the one who brought it up, so I'm just gonna keep bringing, keep
You're
using it. You love it. It's a little bit longer theme, but like I said, you spend a decent amount of time here, so it's nice to have this.
Especially because this is not a place that's necessarily encouraging you to go fast. A slower, relaxed theme like that, you want it to be a bit longer, because you want it to be something that kind of encourages that taking a moment, slowing down. If it loops way too quickly, doesn't work for that.
Yep. All right, let's go ahead and jump into our next theme, called Happier Times. Another arrangement of On the Wind Born. This plays during the scene of Clive and Jill meeting Hannah Murdoch. I'm trying to remember this scene.
So Hannah is the wife of Clive's mentor, the Lord Commander, who never came back from Phoenix Gate.
Oh, yeah, okay. So, and then this is the point where Clive gets his outfit.
Yeah.
and she talks about how he looks like his father, and how they all miss him, and how well he protected all of them. And
she's this kind of unexpected, because it really is just a chance encounter, but this unexpected connection to the past, to this whole inciting incident that started all this. Especially for something where on some level they've been like kind of running away or taken away from what started all of it. This is kind of this connection back to the past, like brings it back into their focus. It's what gives them, it is going to be what eventually gives them the resolve to go and investigate and find out the truth of that night.
So, and as you said, they've been, having to focus on all those negative things that have been happening. It gives them an opportunity to look back at some happier times.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the name.
Yeah, you can't mourn forever.
Nope. Sometimes you just need to.
Or,
well, you can. It just doesn't pay.
Part of mourning often is also just like remembering those good times as well. It wasn't all. Anyways.
Yes. Our next theme takes place that evening when they spend the night at Hannah Murdoch's house. This is called A Prayer to Metia. This is an arrangement of My Star, so it's a very poignant scene, with really involving Jill. And the two of them kind of discussing their past and where to go from here. This game does not lack beautiful music.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've been really spoiled with how good the soundtracks are for these games. How in depth. I mean, the fact that a single game has 8 discs worth of music. It's crazy.
Thinking about this one in particular, we kind of, again, we've been talking about like this memory of the past. We have a scene that's kind of the echo of the past. The first scene we really saw with Clive and Jill was them as kids, and Jill making a wish to the moon, Metia being the red star that is kind of the moon's messenger.
It's kind of reminding of that night.
Yeah. We have a moment that's sort of a little bit of an echo of it, but come to it as a little bit older, a bit wiser, a bit more experience, and so a different feel to it. Yeah, it was interesting talking earlier about the whole thing. It was like, hey, here's this thing that I encountered as a kid, but I didn't really get it, and getting it now. And it's kind of a similar thing of like hey, like we're at this point again, but with a little more benefit of life experience and a better understanding of the world.
Right. Our next theme is called Found Reprise. Very short, but this plays when Clive spots the hooded figure at Phoenix Gate. We then jump into where it all began, the Apothecary. Guess where this plays?
Could it be in the Apothecary?
Why, yes. Yes, it is. So and this is, he follows the figure in, and this is kind of where he starts to kind of see some of this ancient technology waking up as he's approaching it.
You're kind of having, again, this like repeat of the past, the whole one more time, but this time with better understanding of what's happening.
So like once more with feeling?
There actually is a trope on TV Tropes, once more with clarity, for when you see a scene again, only this time with additional bits or with more knowledge, such that you better understand what's going on with it. I love that trope so much.
I love this root beer so much.
Excellent.
Yes, it is excellent root beer. Plus alcohol. Nick Nar knows what I'm talking about. He's had this as well. So this is kind of like the dungeon theme for this first kind of set of ruins inside of Phoenix Gate. Kind of the inside of where Joshua, or the dominant of Phoenix, is meant to kind of talk with the Phoenix.
Yeah. One thing I do want to throw in, just as a interesting etymology note. So, God, I can never pronounce it. Apoditary? Apoditary.
Yeah, apoditary. Yep. Whatever.
Yeah. But yeah. So the actually comes from ancient Rome, where the apoditarium, it was the main entry to the public baths, and it was a large changing room with cubicles or shelves, so you could like take off and put away your clothes, get ready for a bath. So it has this kind of thing of like an entryway, but also like a dressing room where you're kind of preparing yourself.
Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense, because at that point is where the dominant is kind of preparing to discuss things with the icon.
Yeah. It's also interesting that they have this like extremely Latin name for it, because I don't think we've had a lot of Latin naming otherwise in other things, have we?
There's a few pieces that has some of that, so.
But not a lot.
Not like, as much as other games.
Yeah. And given that we have kind of, there's this ancient machinery, there's this like you have, if we're going with the medieval stuff, then the Roman stuff would be the equivalent of like the ancient things, the ruins underneath.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting way to have that by having this very antique classical style name for this, to further emphasize that separation of like, oh no, this is like the ancient ruins thing.
All right.
I do like the linguistics on this stuff.
As he delves deeper into the apoditary, he then runs into the hooded figure again. And then this theme plays, which is called We Are You. It's very, very quiet. Very quiet. But it builds a lot of tension. There's not a lot to it, but there's a lot of tension, because this hooded figure, he thinks at this point that this hooded figure has killed his brother all those years ago.
And also, given the particulars of this scene, I can understand them absolutely not wanting the music to distract at all from what is happening here. There's some like a really major revelation.
Yep. We get this next theme, Away. Refrain. Which plays as Clive watches Ifrit killing the Phoenix again. So he's reliving this whole horrific battle that he saw in his head when he was, all those years ago at Phoenix Gate. And, he's still not quite over. It was a very painful scene.
Yeah.
Until he realizes the truth.
I mean, even then, it's still kind of painful, just in a different way.
In a different way, yeah. Which then this leads into the next theme, Press On. This plays during the first phase of the boss fight against the Infernal Shadow. And it's an arrangement of the next song, which makes sense.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the precursor. This is the pre-battle.
Yeah. It's interesting that, like, it's an arranged television, but yeah, I mean, think of it like back in Final Fantasy XIV, fighting against Titan, where like those first phases are these like much simpler arrangements of Under the Weight.
Yep.
and it builds up as the fight goes on before the climactic part bursting into the complete song.
Yep. And this continues on through that first part of the fight until we get into the full bit of it, which is find the flame. And this is Clive's leitmotif. This is when he learns the truth. Basically.
This is the first time we've actually had Clive in his fullness.
Mm-hmm. This plays during the second phase of the boss fight. As well as in the battle against the Shadow Within. But we know why this is Clive's leitmotif. He doesn't yet.
Yeah, it's interesting, like that name, Find the Flame, just because that's a phrase that it has kind of some meanings already, and it takes on additional ones in the context of it. You've got this idea of like often find the flame is used to refer to like this internal, like finding this internal drive, this motivation, which for Clive we have this finding this truth and this reason to go on and this reason to do the things. But then we also have an almost literal finding of it, finding this flame within.
Yep. And with him, you know, they were only aware of one icon of fire, the Phoenix, which was his brother. Right. And like, then this new one came along, and he doesn't know where it's from, why him. Well, we'll find that out in a second. But
I mean, in general, it's believed that there can only be. So it's not just we didn't know about it. It's this is an impossibility. This shouldn't be able to happen. I think that's part of why it's such a, it's not just that you have this unknown god, this god that seems to defy all the rules and makes a mockery of everything they understand of the world. It's like it's kind of a traumatic in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because it throws everything that they know, out the window. Well, then the fact that, as we learn later on, what the purpose of this other fire icon is for. But we're not going to spoil everything yet.
Right.
So this battle continues on until Clive learns the truth, and he reveals who I really am. This plays during the scene of Clive telling Jill about accepting the truth. That he was Ifrit, that he beat up on the Phoenix, and that he believes he killed his brother now.
Yeah.
So that's why it's very somber, but it is still a leitmotif of Find the Flame. You still hear it in there, but it's a lot sadder, a lot more melancholy, and it's very poignant.
It is an accepting of a deeply painful truth.
Mm-hmm.
Like you had the earlier "we are you" and then "who I really am." Just like I almost want to make a reference to some of the various Persona parodies where you have like finding this like hidden self within, having to confront that this other aspect of you exists.
Yeah.
In this particular case, one that did something really, really terrible.
All right. Next, we have the Seventh Sin. This is also playing in a very gut-wrenching scene in some cases when Hugo Kupka learned of Benedicta's death. And this contains motifs from Heart of Stone. Guess whose theme that is?
Sure, I can't imagine. Given that the two were deeply involved, and while for Benedicta it seems like it may have been more a thing of convenience and manipulation, Hugo really seemed to care, so he is deeply affected by this.
Yeah, the dominant of Titan was really deeply impacted. He was what he believed, he was in love with her, and his death really impacted him deeply. And it just we learn a little bit about his character. He's a little how do we really put this? He's kind of whiny, really. He's just kind of a man-child.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things, like, you've got these people who have been blessed with this power, and you certainly see plenty of real-life stories of people who grow up their entire, like, from birth or from early on being like, yeah, you are special, you can do, never necessarily being forced to mature or face these challenges, and this is one of the ways it can turn out.
Yep, that is correct. So let's continue on with A Mother's Madness. Come on. There we go. It's a short little arrangement of prelude that plays during the callings in Rosaria, when we kind of learn what ended up happening after Clive was knocked out, after Joshua's death, and she walks in with the kind of basically arm in arm with the Empire, and then they just start killing all of these bearers and everybody, associated with the duchy.
Yeah, I mean, Annabella is kind of a hate sink for a lot of stuff, even though she's not necessarily as directly powerful as all the others. She's one person who seeks and manipulates power, who takes a lot of like the fact that she sells her son off into effectively to be a slave, that she's killing these things, that she's like
because things didn't turn out the way she wanted them to turn out. She just sold everything out to try and make things better.
Yeah, she wants power by whatever means.
Yep, and
there is a certain amount of like almost feeling personal about it.
I didn't quite understand the whole story, but it almost seemed like it was just a little bit of a tacked on piece of it, that she's, she wants power, she wants to be involved in the power by producing it with another powerful person and having her offspring take over. And when Joshua was, became the dominant and was so weak, it's like she tried to show that she cared about him. I think she was embarrassed.
There is a long tradition of people like seizing power by, it's like you give birth to the heir and then you act as the regent, or even if you're not taken off the throne, you wield influence over them, because of course they're going to listen to their mother. Whether that actually works out in practice has varied, but there certainly is a long history of people thinking they can do this.
Yeah, it's a type of story that played out. I think it played out better in Game of Thrones than it did in 16.
Yeah.
Cersei was definitely a better regent in that aspect, taking power from that side. But
you do seem to have a lot of the similar elements here, where you have person who's effectively like kind of a normal or outsider to this process, jumping in and wielding, and again, often you have this element of like this quite frankly shocking cruelty. The culling of, she was the Duchess of Rosaria. These are ostensibly her people,
and she sold them off to try and improve her station.
Yeah, which kind of carries across this idea of like she didn't actually care about them as her people. Like as compared to her husband, who really seemed to care about the people, who had this whole vision. Like for her, it's like interchangeable with whatever else. Doesn't actually care about them.
It just kind of makes me feel like they wanted us to hate her just to hate her.
Maybe.
Again, that's just my.
Oh yeah, no, that's not an unreasonable interpretation, and some stuff doesn't land as well.
Yeah, but it happens. It is what it is, and it was part of the story. I didn't quite understand it as much as the other pieces, but it was still there. But anyway, let's continue on with Unforgiven. This plays in a scene of Kupka's man spying on the curse breakers, and it contains motifs from Heart of Stone.
Yeah. As a side note, so Kupka, the way he learns of Benedicta's death is by receiving her severed head.
Yep.
This isn't a messenger showing up. This is brutal and visceral for someone who, again, loved her. And he is also falsely led to believe that her death was the work of Cid's group.
Mm-hmm. What? So somebody planted it that way, though.
Yes. Like, there's clearly machinations going on behind the scenes. And Kupka seems to be falling for him, hook, line, and sinker.
Yep, because he's a giant man-child.
Yeah.
And everybody knows it.
A lot of depictions of Titan often have this kind of like this simplistic, just like the Earth being uncomplicated, direct, smashing through, not necessarily given over to subtlety.
That makes sense, I guess.
And they're definitely playing up those aspects here.
Our next theme is acceptance. This is an arrangement of Find the Flame and plays during the scene where Clive joins Cid's cause. So he is now full-time, a member of Cid's group of merry bandits.
Yeah. I mean, they've been palling around for a bit.
I mean,
they've been palling around for.
Yeah, they have been. I was gonna just say that vagrants with swords. Sorry, you knew that's where I was going.
I did. So yes, the two have been palling around for a bit, but this is the point where Clive fully accepts it. Like before, it'd been kind of like okay, we're in the same place, we're going in the same direction, but Clive himself had still been a bit directionless, unresolved, things are past. Now that he's gone and learned the truth of it, he's a bit more able to commit himself to a course of action and join up with this group.
Yeah, because he knows that it's not something that he can really do on his own. He needs the resources that Cid and his band can offer, and it gives him an opportunity to kind of share a little bit of the load with them, so it's not all on his shoulders.
He has reason to care now.
Yep. Our next one, The Journey Begins. This plays during the scene where Cid tells the others about the raid on Oriflamme and is an arrangement of Final Fantasy.
Pretty obviously.
Yes. It's kind of like that scene right in the first game when they crest the hill and they get the theme song going there. When you cross the bridge,
Yep.
Such a happy little scene. And it just like it fits so perfectly right there. Next, we have Will of the Goddess. Plays in scenes involving Emperor Sylvester, and this is an arrangement of history. Or how would you pronounce that word, Seyrr?
Histoire?
Is it histoire?
Yeah, especially because it's the Holy Empire of Sanbreque. Like, there's kind of a French feel to
this. Okay, so it's the French word for history?
Yeah.
And as we'll learn in the next theme, it is the Sanbreque theme. Lots of trumpets, very regal, very,
Yeah.
And now you got a harpsichord.
As said, this one is really Sylvester's theme, but there's a certain amount of Sylvester is Sanbreque and Sanbreque is Sylvester. The two very intimately bound up.
For now. So if Sanbreque is France, what would Rosaria be?
Oh. Always hard to call on these things.
You can think about it too. You don't have to give me an answer right now. I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, it's not a perfect analog. Like Sanbreque is also like holy. It's like maybe you're looking more Holy Roman Empire. I don't know. But depending I feel like probably you're just gonna go for like general England type situation.
I say they're more like Switzerland.
Yeah, not unreasonable.
It's that they care about their country and they really, aren't much about, fighting with anybody else. Our next theme is Histoire, the field theme of the Holy Empire of Sanbreque. So you hear this a lot as you're roaming the countryside around the Empire. But yeah, I guess I can understand where you're coming from, where a lot of the etymology from... etymology or entomology? Etymology, right?
Etymology. Entomology is insects.
Insects, yeah, that's what I thought. I just want to make sure I got the right one.
That's fine.
The naming of the things is very French, but the way they're handling their empire is more like Rome.
Yeah. Like, it's not a perfect analog, but it's...
kind of a mix of the two.
Yeah.
The Holy French Empire, we'll call it.
I mean, actually, I was talking about earlier about like the Holy Roman Empire, which claimed to be like kind of have inherited their power from the ancient emperors of Rome. Like there wasn't actually, but there was a lot of claims to being the inheritors of this particular legacy. Even though
they changed a lot of their belief system behind it, instead of having being polytheistic as going strictly monotheistic.
It's messy.
Yeah,
I have often heard saying like the Holy Roman Empire was neither Holy Roman nor an empire.
Yeah, I mean they have this much land. In the scheme of things.
Yeah. Oh, you might be thinking of the Vatican. Well, the Holy Roman Empire was pretty decently sized.
Yeah, but I mean, that's where it's at right now.
Oh no, like the Holy Roman Empire. The Vatican is different.
Is it?
Here. Yeah, I'm gonna throw a picture into the into our Discord channel so you can see. That was the area of the Holy Roman Empire in its heyday.
Okay.
A lot of it is what became Germany. It was big. There was a lot going on with that.
But I mean, the Roman Empire expanded down into Spain, into Turkey and Greece and...
Oh, yes. I mean, that's the thing. The Holy Roman Empire claimed to be the inheritors of Rome's legacy, but that claim is highly questionable. But they certainly were claiming it. So yeah, thinking about it, which I mean, also the Holy Roman Empire did have some elements of French influence. I want to say Charlemagne was one of its. So like, I feel like that's probably our best analog for Sanbreque.
Okay, we'll go with that. Let's go ahead and continue on with our next theme. After we learned our little history with Seyrr. The resident librarian. All right, we are now on Sway. This plays during dialogue scenes, which makes sense, It's kind of something simple playing in the background as you're discussing things with the other people that you're dealing with.
Yeah, not much melody. It's largely the percussion.
Lots of percussion. It allows you to focus on the conversations that are happening.
Yeah. It is also something where I was just learning about room tone in film and production type stuff, which you probably are already familiar with, Klauss.
A little bit.
But just the idea, like, straight up silence is weird and unsettling to us. So you gotta have like something, whether it's that room tone or just like this gentle percussion in the background.
It's kind of like a white noise kind of thing.
Pretty much.
Just something to distract the mind from deafening silence.
Yeah, I did find some other discussions of FF16's countries and their real world inspiration. There's a fair amount of debate on it, but Sanbreque a fair number of people talked about France, the Vatican, and the Holy Roman Empire. So all of those came up.
Okay, I mean, and that makes sense. I mean, because they don't want to make it a one-to-one analog of something in the real world. They want it to be...
Yeah, stuff does draw inspiration from...
multiple
They also
sources.
note that Rosaria, the analog seems to be the UK. You've got independent provinces united under a common archduke. Rosarian names are mostly English sounding.
Okay. I was just thinking of more of their stance on fighting, where because the UK, at least in way back was not about protecting their own. So
yeah, that's a whole thing.
Yeah, let's not get into that yet.
Yeah.
All right, our next theme, Treading Lightly, the Glass Gate. Plays in the Oriflamme mines. There's a lot of tension here because this is we're trying to sneak through there without being, causing too much hubbub or hullabaloo.
Yeah. Oriflamme, by the way, that's another one that has origins pretty much in medieval France. It was a pointed blood red banner flown from a gilded lance. It was the sacred battle standard of the King of France. And one of the big things with it was they held up as a sign of like divine intervention, like we have the power of God behind us and God's power. So yeah, again, it is useful to remember, like, the idea of church and state being at all separate is an extremely modern idea. The divine right of kings, the king monarch or ruler who is also the religious head of state, a lot of melding between the two, and a lot of them would claim that God was. And so having these mines that are named after this, really fits in with what we've been seeing already.
Mm-hmm. Lot going on in here though, so they're just trying to sneak through there to get information to try and find out what's going on. But
we've seen this in a couple others. It actually makes me think a little bit of Final Fantasy XII, where you have these kind of infiltrations into mines and the like in enemy territory. Mines being classic for this because it fits a lot of your requirements for your typical video game dungeon. Yeah,
I mean it's underground. It's limited scope. You've got specific paths that lead to places.
It works well. It's a set piece for a reason.
Well, that, and I think these mines were used for mining crystals.
Yep, ties in with a lot of the stuff with the crystal, which again they wanted to make.
Yep, because Oriflamme is built upon Drake's head. Is that correct?
I believe so.
That particular mother crystal.
Yeah.
One of 6, I believe, in the land.
Plus, if you've got a mine, you can have set pieces like fighting over a mine shaft. That's a classic.
Yes. And you can kick your enemies down said mine shaft,
or have a fight where you're both plummeting down it. This does not seem like the type of setting where you'd have your classic minecart battle, but the option's there.
Da 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 da.
Oh, road's not taken, I suppose.
All right, let's go ahead and continue on because this one goes for a little bit. This next one is Reflections, Drake's Head. And let me guess, you think this plays in Drake's Head?
Ooh. They could be trying to do a bamboozle on us.
But why?
I'm pretty sure it's Drake's head.
Why does Drake have this playing in his head?
I don't know. It doesn't really have much of a hook.
No. But I mean, the tone of this is it kind of fits a little bit with the crystals.
Yeah.
Because you've got that pipe organ in the background, and you've got a little bit of a chanting going on.
Like, you've got kind of that crystal aspect, but it also does fit in with the religious nation aspect that we've been talking about in a lot of these other things. So it works for a crystal, but it especially works for a crystal in this holy empire.
Yep. And this plays for a bit, and then we get up to the next theme, which is the heart. And you can hear the prelude in this. And this plays in the scene where Cid's group is approaching the Mother Crystal's heart in Drake's head. I don't know, and again, I don't know why why the Mother Crystal's heart is in Drake's head. Anyway, sorry, we're gonna leave Drake out of this from now on. Because otherwise we're gonna be making all these jokes every time we talk about Drake's head, Drake's tail, Drake, we're gonna skip all that.
Yeah. No one wants to talk about Drake's tail.
Oh my.
Yeah.
And as they approach the heart, Cid decides to deliver us thunder. Plays in the scene where Cid primes into Ramuh to destroy Drake's head, and is an arrangement of Hide, Hide Away, which is Cid's theme, his leitmotif.
Yeah, we've had Cid like largely fighting against this. So the fact that he like takes on this power, like there's always a thing like the tools of the master cannot be like, God, what? Yeah, I had something and then I lost it.
Just like they lost their Mother Crystal.
Weak.
Well, they did. The next theme is the Babel of Savage Screams. Plays during the scene where Typhon appears at Drake's head, which is an arrangement of Logos. I don't know if we've had Logos yet.
I don't believe so.
But I believe Logos is the theme for Ultima.
Yeah.
Who we haven't met Ultima yet, have we?
We have not.
I didn't think so. I believe Typhon the Transgressor is one of his minions. I'm trying to remember which one Typhon was in here. I know there's the Typhon from 6. It's not the same Typhon, I don't believe, is it?
I don't believe so, no.
They just use some of the same names of other Final Fantasy bosses.
I mean, since a lot of these are like
does.
Classical, mythological.
Yeah. So after Typhon appears, they then have to fight Typhon the Transgressor with a theme called how am I going to pronounce this?
Catacomony. It's another old word with religious associations.
Catacomony? You forgot a
Catacomony.
Catake or catase?
Catake.
Okay, your camera is also very fuzzy right now.
Sorry about that. But yeah, no, it's ancient Greek.
Okay. Another arrangement of Logos, but this is the boss theme. So it's a lot more intense, a little more boss themey, for lack of a better word.
The word literally means burnt land or burnt country.
Can you try and make your camera just a little bit more unfuzzy?
Let me try.
There you go. Perfect.
There we go.
Sometimes those cameras just don't want to focus. It's weird.
Yeah. But yes, literally means burnt land or burnt country. It was a district in what is now modern Turkey and a union of cities in the area. But the name came from the lava and the volcanic belts that made up the area.
Okay.
Kind of had like this really dark. So it was, the name of it, as I said, literally means like burnt land or burnt country. In this context, burnt land means something a bit different given Typhon's whole thing.
It's a very interesting boss theme though.
Yeah. This definitely is like it's the first time where we've gotten into some of those things that like it's not quite modern, it's otherworldly, but not in like the ethereal way, but in the like kind of strange alien
different
way.
From the norm that we've been experiencing so far.
Yeah. Yeah, oftentimes, especially for a lot of we've got like a lot of your more classical medieval, having something that has a little bit more of modern styling is this way to communicate that this is something that's just like alien and foreign to this world. which is starting to gives us a little bit of an early glimpse at the true nature of what's going on here.
Yep.
Though we won't get more about that till much later.
Yep.
But it is kind of this first point where we're getting this glimpse at, and you see this in a lot of, like, I remember Final Fantasy Tactics, where you've got the political story going on, all that, and then there's this other thing running underneath it.
With all the different icons and the different pantheon of gods that Tactics had.
Yep. And yeah, again, we've got something that's this, again, ancient Greek name, so something much earlier, much further back. Again, we've got a lot of history of this world that has been lost or hidden, stuff that we're going to in later discs find more about.
Yep. And
so this is once again kind of that first glimpse at, hey, there's something deeper under here that we didn't know about.
Yep. There's a reason for all of these different mother crystals, for all of these dominants, and we're gonna uncover the truth. You know, Cid wants to destroy all of these to try and bring the world back into more of a balance and not having to rely on the magic of the crystals. But what he doesn't know is what we're gonna start uncovering here soon.
Yeah, why it's this way in the first place.
Exactly. But our next theme is kind of a tearjerker. It's called The Outlaw, and is an arrangement of Hide, Hide Away, Cid's leitmotif, but it plays in the scene of Cid's death. He does not make it through this battle. He has some last words for Clive before he passes on. So it's a little somber, but it's still classic Cid, being, making sure that what he has been trying to do here is not lost with him.
Like, the outlaw could practically be something that uses like an epitaph or put in his obituary or something like that. It's this role that he very proudly embraced.
Mm-hmm. And then it ends up becoming a whole Dread Pirate Roberts thing, where the name is not the person. The name is just, something that's passed along to keep this whole story going.
Yeah.
So he doesn't take on the moniker quite yet. But I just thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah.
How later on, how Cid, passes the name on to Clive, and how he accepts it and continues on with Cid's vision and trying to bring the world back to some sort of semblance of normalcy, should we call it?
Yeah. On a certain level, Cid isn't a person, it's an idea.
Yes. Plus, getting to use a Princess Bride analogy is always fun. Such a good movie.
It's a classic for a reason. I mean, for several reasons.
Many. Every scene. Want a peanut?
Oh, that bit is probably not making it into 16.
So yeah, that is the end of one Cid, but not the end of his dream.
Yeah, it's not the end of Cid, just of a Cid.
Of this Cid. And our final theme in disc 3 of the Final Fantasy XVI original soundtrack is In Ashen Grip. Plays in the scene where Joshua captures Ultima and kind of pulls him inside of him. Kind of within the where the Phoenix is, I suppose. That's the only way I can really understand it. But this is an arrangement of Away, which I believe is Joshua's leitmotif.
Yep.
So this is where we learned that this weird shit going on with Typhon and these ruins and these weird pictographs on the wall. We learned that something else is happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. And no, I'm not going to continue on. Sorry. But there's something else afoot, and it's just kind of introducing, the idea of, this other force, let's call it right now, in the world.
Yeah.
Because when we got to this point in the game, I didn't understand exactly what was happening either. Just this big weird gray guy who's, spouting off a lot of nonsense about crystals and stuff, and then Joshua, kind of puts him into Phoenix jail.
That's a way to think of it, yes.
But like I said, it didn't make a ton of sense at the time, but like I said, as the game progressed, it made more sense.
But yes, and after this entire sequence where Clive is confronting his role in Joshua's death, getting again some new information, complicating something we thought that we understood.
Yeah.
We're far through the game at this point. We got a ways to go.
But it was a really interesting thing to see Joshua and his traveling companion, and how that they're working on their side of things to try and figure out what's going on, and we have a lot to learn yet. So
yeah,
but yeah, I'm really such a good game, and I hope that if you haven't yet picked up Final Fantasy XVI and you have a PS5, I do strongly recommend it. It is a wonderful game. It plays well. You don't have to be, very good at with quick reflex type of actions to be able to get through the game. There is a very simple and simplified story mode that you can play through.
Yeah, that story mode does give you accessories that make a lot of the gameplay elements like much more forgiving on the timing or automatically handling certain aspects of the game. I do appreciate the efforts to make that game accessible.
Yep, and you can then change the difficulty by adding and removing those items to increase or decrease, what you need to input to make it go. But yeah, it's
in general,
great.
I do appreciate that games are thinking a lot more about accessibility.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, and the fact that you can change how accessible you make it with those items is really cool. So that's disc 3. We've got lots more to talk about on that, but yeah, it's just such a good story. And listening to the music and then seeing what they talk about how where it's at in the game helps to remind me what's happened and how all that works. So it's really cool. So very helpful without having to spend 60 hours to play through it again.
Yeah. As I said, taking breaks, it's not just good for your eyes and hands, it's also good for making sense of what just happened.
Any final thoughts?
Ooh, not off the top of my head.
But the game really gets interesting here. So, that's my only thought.
This is definitely the point where we had a lot of our assumptions about what the game's about and what the overarching is does start getting turned on its head. Yeah. Starting with just the revelations about Clive's actual role in Joshua's death, then moving on to the nature of the icons and of Joshua himself.
Yep, finding out that Joshua's not dead.
Yeah. Pretty much it's after going through this, we've again had a lot of assumptions set up for us and then shown that no, these aren't actually true. These are the lies that were put in front of us, which of course raises a question about why these lies were told, what the various players are in this. We've gotten signs that there are more forces at play and people with interests in this. And Clive kind of moving into that position of leadership.
Yep. All right. So that's going to go ahead and do it for this episode, guys. If you liked what you heard, please make sure to like, subscribe, or follow us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. Wait, no, that's not even a thing anymore. Never mind. So Google Podcasts and Stitcher are both gone. So Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, or whatever your preferred podcatcher is, or if possible, leave us a rating or review. It helps other people find our show and lets us know how we're doing. If you really dig the show, you can consider subscribing to us here at twitch.tv/PhoenixDownRadio, where we try and do this show live every other Saturday night. You know, sometimes life comes up and we don't get a chance to do it every other Saturday, but we do love doing it live for you guys because it's a lot more fun. If you subscribe here, you get access to a number of subscriber-only emotes and badges. Or you can go out to patreon.com/PhoenixDownRadio and support us out there, like our benevolent overlord, Rory Fenrir, or our resident slacker, Nick Nar. All proceeds go towards growing the show, cover hosting costs, allow us to improve and upgrade equipment, as well as do fun things like contests and giveaways. But any kind of support, whether it's emails, likes, retweets, subs, follows, donations, emails, whatever, it's all greatly appreciated. We love interacting with you guys and the rest of the community. If you want to check out our backlog of episodes, go out to our website, PhoenixDownRadio.com. If you have questions, suggestions, or just want to say hi, you can always email us at podcast@PhoenixDownRadio.com. And like I said, the backlog of our episodes is also available on YouTube.com/PhoenixDownRadio. Any shout outs there?
Ooh, I shout out to all of my colleagues at the library for getting through that last week. None of us died, we think.
Just a little bit inside.
I need you to confirm that I'm not actually dead and in purgatory right now.
Well, I can't reach out and pinch you because you're a few thousand miles away.
So I am in purgatory.
Well, I thought you were in the Bay Area.
6 of 1.
Okay. And thank you guys for the love and support of for the past 200 episodes. And
pretty wild.
8.5 years. 200 episodes.
How are you all still here? What the heck?
How are we
not
still
that I
here?
mind, but what the heck?
Now that I think about it a little bit, just take a little bit of time to kind of focus and think about the passage of time and the amount of episodes we've produced and how long we've been doing this. I don't think that when we first started back in 2015 that we'd still be doing this.
No.
You thought this was probably going to be like a couple of years and we end up kind of just putting it aside like those other dreams that we always have, right?
Kinda, yeah. I don't think I thought about it explicitly in those terms, but if you had asked me then, I'd probably be like, it'll go on for a bit, but I don't know how long we'll be able to keep it up. Because stuff is going to start coming up, or someone will lose interest or things like that. So the fact that it's been going on is just weird. Not bad, but weird.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest.
It has been a very strange, funny trip, and I do enjoy it.
I'm gonna be 100% honest. There are times when it's like, I don't know if I really have what it takes to keep doing this. I think about it as like, is this really where I want to put the focus of my time? Because you think about it, and since I started this, with Seyrr, a lot of my life has changed. I've had different jobs. I've had different relationship statuses. I've had, I've always been in this house, thankfully. But I've had a lot of things in my life have changed from then to now. And the one constant, though, is the fact that I do enjoy talking about this game called Final Fantasy. And I like something that is able to kind of bring my focus in on something that I enjoy and share that with other people who also enjoy that. So it's kind of nice to have a little bit of a voice to express that to you guys and to really be able to talk with like-minded people about this video game that we enjoy and what it means to us, not only as an entertainment franchise, but just where the stories come from, where and how that what it's impacted on our lives. It's really crazy to think about it. And I really hope to keep doing this for you guys because I really do enjoy it. When I get into it, I really get into it again. It's like, why don't I keep doing this all the time? But there are the times it's like, it's been 6 weeks. Do I really have to do this now? I kind of want to sleep or snuggle or whatever. But I sit down here, Sarah and I start talking about this, and it's crazy how much I get back into it again, and how it draws me back. Because
there's a lot of stuff like that in life where it's like trying to get at the energy, but once you start, it's like, oh yeah, I'm enjoyable about this.
Mm-hmm. It's so funny how that works. I mean, I might not be as enthusiastic as I was day one, but I will say my joy and enthusiasm about the game, the series, and talking with you about it hasn't changed once I get into it.
Like, a fire can't burn that hot forever, but like properly tended and cared for, it can go at a little bit gentler thing for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm. And Chili, I have to say, having you as a host for a number of these episodes, it was a pleasure, and it's still a pleasure to have you, as somebody who enjoys our discussion of this, because it's kind of fun to hear somebody else's thoughts about these things and not just have just a blank sounding board where you're kind of echoing back and forth. I like getting the different tones. I like getting the different thoughts, the different ideas of where what the meanings are.
Yeah, if I just wanted to hear myself, I could just talk into a mirror all day. That's not interesting.
Doing a solo Final Fantasy podcast would be boring to everybody. So the fact that
I would run out of stuff to talk about so quickly.
Yeah, I love that for 200 episodes, you have been there, Seyrr, for me to bounce my ideas off of, for you to call my ideas stupid.
I don't usually say that.
Not usually, but if I say something stupid, you tell me, and you say like, no, that's crazy. What it's more like this, and then I think about it, and we come up with just all these ideas. It's fun, and I've loved having this podium for the last 8.5 years to just expound upon all of these theories, these thoughts, and this love of this game. So
I'll go ahead and throw in that one thing I find working in the library, the days I have the most fun and the interactions that are the most interesting are not the one where I'm teaching someone about something, though those are entertaining enough. It's the ones where I and the customer are learning stuff together. Mm-hmm. Where someone asks something, it's like I don't know. I know about this thing. Let's see if we can explore this. And the bit where we're learning stuff alongside each other, those are the ones that really make it worth it. And the ones where I get to talk to you, Klauss, where I get to talk to our audience, where I get to pause in the middle and say, wait, that doesn't make sense. What do you think? Okay, let's bounce this off. Those are the ones that I feel really start getting to these really fascinating, that back and forth, that interplay. So yeah, as a solo thing, I just don't feel like it would work.
Yeah, because if I was just giving my opinion on the soundtracks of these things and trying to come up with my memories, I don't think anybody would want to listen to that. But hearing you and I bounce back our thoughts of where this comes from, how it makes us feel, why they
one of us making a remark that reminds the other of something.
Exactly. I think the dynamic that we found on this is why we're still interested in doing all of this. And
it definitely keeps it interesting. I do love it.
So while we are bad at celebrating ourselves, I think the fact that we're still able to do this and enjoy it is something proud that we should savor.
Oh yeah, I still love it. I'm still happy that we've done it. I just am bad at actually putting up the crepe paper or whatever. What do people do for parties? Most of my birthday parties as a kid were pretty low key. I don't know what people actually do.
You go to a bad chain restaurant where they sing horrible happy birthday songs and give you a subpar chocolate cake.
You know what? I think I'm okay with this then.
So so for me, my shout out again is to you, Seyrr, for being able to keep me thinking about things from a different point of view, and just be able to, you know, continue to enjoy this series. And shout outs to everybody who listens to the podcast and keeps coming back to it. I especially love it when you also add your voice into this via chat, via emails, via the Discord, and really keep this as a living thing. I really think this podcast series is a completely living entity that you guys are a huge part of. So thank you for continuing to support us in that way and keep this fun and interesting for everybody. So with that, I mean, I really invite everybody to join us on our Discord. You can go to phoenixdownradio.com/Discord, and it should give you a link to our Discord server where you can join us in this discussion and have fun. So thank you so much for 200 episodes, and here's hopefully to 200 more episodes coming in the future.
That's so many. Well, I don't know that I mind, but that's just so many.
Yeah, but I mean, we can take it at our own time.
We just do it 100 at a time. Easy.
Well, or just one at a time.
Well, yes.
Let's take it one episode at a time.
I guess.
For my co-host, Seyrr Timono, I'm Klauss Nightbringer, wishing everybody a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Phoenix Down Radio is a production of PhoenixDownRadio.com and Illusion Productions. Final Fantasy XIV and Eorzea are trademarks of Square Enix. In-game content for Phoenix Down Radio is the copyright of Square Enix. Opening music for Phoenix Down Radio is provided by Guilty Gear Rock You. Check out the Metal Chocobo theme cover and many other music videos at youtube.com/Guilty Gear Rock You. Closing music for this episode is provided by Guitar Wanker 90. Please check out their full version of Matoya's Cave and other rock video game covers at youtube.com/Guitar Wanker 90. The views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of Phoenix Down Radio and its hosts and do not reflect the views of Square Enix.